the clothing?
Not very, not a whole lot of people, but
Really?
Well, it's still like 23. I mean, we figure they had garbage bags as they, like a big bag. So, like, I mean, it wasn't as many as expected, but they went through some big bags.
it's good.
I think we have the same amount of clothing still, but I think there's now noticeable, right?
All right, so Travis is gonna be taking prayer requests.
You get cool magnetic ones, but there's nothing to.
Oh, man. Oh.
But they do have.
Yeah.
That's good. All right.
You can make them underneath, just to say they're right.
Yeah. Underneath.
Imagine almost it.
Yeah.
M&M.
Yeah, there's been more cases in Pacifica.
And
Did Hearthstone has cases?
Hearthstone has one confirmed case.
Okay.
So Prestige Hearthstone Hearthstone has one, and Prestige Rehab, of course, has all of the others.
So there are 5 people who passed away.
Right.
Yes, a friend of ours, Gary Pudney, he was late 80s. He was one of those that passed away in Pacifica. He had Alzheimer's. He lost his wife.
Oh, is that your name?
No, I played for him. Yeah, and I was, when his wife died a year and 6 months ago, I just always stayed with him, took care of him and owned their house and everything. So his daughter called me on Monday, told me that he passed away from corona. So, anyway, their daughter's name is Lori and Larry Smith.
Lori?
Lori and Larry Smith, and they also have another daughter, Linda. Renton somewhere, I don't know exactly, her name's Linda.
Okay.
So, anyway, prayers for that family. Thank you.
Yeah, there's a family that we've known for a long time that we went to Everett Church of Christ with. And, the dad, he has dementia and he has leukemia. And the son has a failing liver, Ernest Jr. Mitchell.
They're both parents.
Yeah,
And what's her last name?
Mitchell.
Mitchell?
A few weeks ago, I said I have a friend, Sandy, who had a brain leak, and she had surgery, and she's doing well now, but we're not able to bring her home yet. So there's prayers that she continues to recover. And
S-A-D-I-E?
Why?
S-A-D-Y. Okay. Is that right? S-A-D-Y-E or no E?
No,
Can't see your wrist.
You just want to do it up.
They're just showing off.
Oh, of course, I see what you're saying. Of course, you got the one with the most gadgets on it.
Yeah.
You pray for Christine. She's got a boy. Well, he's almost 19, so he's still a boy. There's a boy interested in her. She's interested in him. There's some courting going on.
He actually called Ellis and asked if he could, like.
Not date, he just
Not
wants
date,
to
but-
explore, like go. And
I mean,
So we need to pay for her or pray for him?
Both.
Yeah.
The spirit, and pray for us.
Have you already intimidated him or is that still to come?
Yeah, still to come. It's to be
Yeah.
It
the-
sounds awkward enough on the phone.
That's awesome.
Sure, he's plenty nervous.
That's funny.
So, but anyways, he's a good kid.
Loves the word, like, really.
And he's
great.
we've known him for a long time. He's from California, but they've gone to Mazama Bible Camp together forever.
That's cool.
So, anyways,
That's cool.
yeah, pray for that.
Okay. Anything else?
So you can probably pray for Ernestine.
Okay.
Continue. Yeah.
Ernestine.
E-R?
ERN. ESTINA.
Krestin.
Sure. The Lord knows.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, we've just been trying to keep, particularly Roxanne, in touch with her and stuff and throughout this whole time. So
Okay.
just needs prayers.
Is this some kind of ritualistic thing or is this?
I was just sneezing inside my mask.
Oh,
Okay,
man.
that's no.
See, that's the whole reason why we have masks. Is it so you can sneeze without worrying about holding it. It just,
Oh, next time.
it just catches it all.
Get your replacements.
Let's see, Brent and Andrea, he's got leukemia. And we prayed for them before and they've been in our, in our congregation and stuff, but, and then, praises.
Brent?
Brett.
Right, sorry, I can't, it's a new mask, it doesn't want to stay on. But Vicky made it, it's so.
Mhm.
And then praises for Gold Creek, because they have been doing awesome and they've, they're not, I mean, if you look at books, of course, they're still hurting because they can't have, people inside, but her employees are happy and she's happy and they have some difficulties coming up for sure, especially in the beginning of August, so definitely, still pray for them, but they've been so thankful and it's really cool. It's so nice to hear my sister like really joyful and excited. And, yeah, so it's pretty awesome,
I think, sorry.
Oh,
No, go ahead.
my mom, a couple days ago tore something, I think it's like a muscle or something,
Okay.
in her shoulder, and she like can't move,
Okay.
and she's really hurt.
I think it'd be really a shame for us not to be praying for our brothers and sisters in China, because they are being massively persecuted right now.
Absolutely. And I think for our country, just everything, but also, we're right about the end of the extra stimulus,
Hmm.
but then also at the end of the eviction freeze. So I think it seems like there's going to be some pretty hard times for a whole lot of people coming up. So
Yeah, I talked to my brothers on Tuesday and one lives in Redmond, Bellevue, and the other one lives in California, and they both said that they've seen dumpsters full of stuff as people were leaving. They have to move them out of their apartments, so they're not gonna move all the stuff, so they've thrown them away.
mhm.
So,
it's not going to be good. So
So now's a good time to go like dumpster diving.
You classy, Jen.
yeah, so just a lot of prayers. I think they're really in order.
okay. Anything else? Anything on YouTube?
No.
Okay. All right, let's pray. Father God, we come to you tonight, we're praying for a lot of people who need your comfort or care and healing as they're dealing with just illness or tragedy and just health concerns. And so, you know who they are, we'll run through the list, but Father, please be with them in general. Help everybody that we're talking about and thinking about to be healthy, to recover from whatever they're dealing with. And Father, I pray that they'll be surrounded by people who are caring for them and treating them with medical care and advice, and just help them be surrounded by smart, wise people who can give them advice and treat them and help them to recover. And Father, I want to specifically pray for Simone's mom. Help her as she's recovering from whatever she did with her shoulder. I pray that she will just be able to deal with the pain and the frustration of not being able to recover quickly and to get back up and be healthy and just moving around like she wants to. Please, Father, be with Madge and Melba and everybody else where they're living right now. Keep them safe in those facilities. Father, I pray that they will not be scared, that they will be comforted by knowing you, that they will be happy and be able to keep doing the things that they want to do. And Father, please just help our congregation to reach out to them, continue to talk to them, pray for them and call them, as they're the most isolated of anybody that we're dealing with right now. And just please, just keep them safe and keep them healthy. Father, please be with Lori and Ludbury Smith. Help them and just keep them safe and healthy. And Father, also please be with the Mitchells and their health issues. Father, please be with Sadie as she's recovering from surgery. Help her to get to a stage where she can be released and move on quickly. Help her to continue to recover and have good treatment so that she can be healthy. Father, please be with Brett and Andrea. Help him as he's going through treatment. Just help him to recover and to be healthy and just to treat the cancer. Father, please be with, continue to be with Ernestine and be with Derek and Roxanne and the girls as well as they're talking to her and comforting her. Father, I pray that her family and her church family will be there to support her, and thank you for blessing her with having great neighbors close by who can pray for her and comfort her and just continue to let them be a part of her life. Father, please be with all the stuff that's going on in China right now. Just please be with the Christians there as they're being persecuted and everything else that's happening with that country. Please continue to just watch over them, comfort them, and I pray that there'll be something that will change in that situation where they will be able to see some peace and some freedom and just not as much oppression as they're dealing with right now. And Father, thank you for blessing us to be in a country and a place where we have some amazing freedoms, so many that we take them for granted. Father, just help our country to move past all the stuff we're dealing with, all the political strife, the sickness that we're dealing with right now. Help us just to become a great nation that looks to you. And Father, please help us as a community here locally just to be unified in you, to lift you up and to glorify you. Father, help us to just show the community where we live what it's like to be a Christian, and help us to reach out and talk to people in this time where they may not be asking questions normally, but they would right now. So Father, please help us through that. Help us to know what to say. Help us to know what to do and who to talk to. Father, please continue to watch over Amy and everything that's going on at Gold Creek. Thank you for being with her so far this year, for helping her through the struggles with her health issues and the financial issues and getting things up and running. Father, I pray that as the end of August comes around, that the business will be profitable, that they will be able to keep going and just continue to bless her. Father, please be with everybody right now that's dealing with on the COVID stuff, is with unemployment. So many people looking for jobs. Father, I pray that the economy will turn around quicker than not, and we'll be able to see more people getting jobs and getting back in the workforce. And Father, I pray that you'll be with the leaders as they're trying to make decisions about changing the stimulus and increasing the amount of money that's going into unemployment. Just continue to guide them, be in their lives, help them to make wise decisions for the benefit of others. Father, please be with Christine. Help her. Thank you for giving her this excitement in her life. Thank you for just putting her in a situation right now where she's got a friend that she wants to talk to, spend time with, and get to know. Father, thank you for just giving her great Christian values, where she's just got a good head on her shoulders and knows what to do and knows how to do things and be wise. Father, please help her as she's making decisions. Please guide her thoughts and her feelings and just comfort her and be with her mom and dad too as they're going through this for the first time, and help them to be wise in the things that they say and do. Father, please be with us tonight as we study and continue to grow in your word. I pray this in Jesus' holy name. Amen.
Amen.
right, so we're back in Colossians. We're starting chapter 3 today. So 3, kind of 1 through 18 is the major section. I don't know if we'll get through the whole section today, 3, 1 through 18, but it all kind of works, or 17, 19, sorry. It all works together in pretty coherently, especially with kind of the subject that he dealt with last week. So the subject that he dealt with last week was more or less legalism, importing a set of rules. Oh, just toast.
Ministry is
Yeah.
also.
Love you, kiddo. Just trying to contain, I guess, sin with a set of laws. Trying to hold ourselves accountable to a set of laws in order to keep us religious or on the right track or whatever. And Paul basically discounts that and says that those practices, as he says in verse 23, such regulations indeed have the appearance of wisdom with their self-imposed worship, their false humility, and their harsh treatment of the body, but they lack any value in restraining sensual indulgence. And saying so that just that really structured, rule-based faith, it doesn't actually do the thing that you want it to do. You want it to keep you, pure, but it actually doesn't do that. Saying it doesn't have any power to restrain your indulgence. You see that. You tell a kid, don't put your hand in the cookie jar. Don't take a cookie. What do? They take a cookie. Don't press that button. And everything in your life is focused on pressing that button, right? It doesn't restrain. Just giving a law doesn't necessarily restrain someone from indulging in the flesh. So he builds on that, but instead he does something really interesting. He kind of flips the subject to a different perspective. So it doesn't just say here's some rules that will help. He changes the whole conversation, and we'll look at that in a second. So what he does is he gives a different perspective. And I was thinking about that today. I was telling the Nails earlier that Margaret and I we hiked the ridge this morning. So you start off, at the trailhead. You're kind of sunken in, can't really see a whole lot around you. Then you get to the top of the ridge, and then you can see all of Ellensburg, basically. You have a completely different perspective, right? So you see, okay, well, part of the city, and the whole city around you, a bunch of farmland. And then we decided to go up to the observatory, which is, just as high above the ridge as the ridge is above Ellensburg, basically. So, but then you see Rainier, huge, great shot of Rainier, and all of the area around you. So you have a whole different layer of perspective. So I think Paul, what he's doing in this section is saying, okay, all you can view really, right, all you can see from the natural perspective is temptation, block the temptation, and I shouldn't have it. Block, really strangle my body so that I don't indulge. And he's saying, no, there's a whole different way to look at the way the world works, who you are, and how you should live within that world, and how you should operate within that world. So he's taking them above and giving them a deeper and a higher perspective of who they are, where they belong in the world, and how they should operate within that world. So, without any further ado, chapter 3, and I'll read the first section, and then we'll go Sarah and Ellis, and Tom and Carol, and that should do the section. Actually, I'll just do it in 2 readings. I'll read 1 through 11, and Sarah, can you finish off the chapter? Finish it off through verse 17. Sure. Cool. Since then you have been raised with Christ. Set your hearts on the things above, where Christ is seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds on the things above, not on earthly things, for you died, and your life is now hidden with Christ in God. When Christ, who is your life, appears, then you will also appear with him in glory. Put to death, therefore, whatever belongs to your earthly nature, sexual immorality, impurity, lust, evil desires, and greed, which is idolatry. Because of these, the wrath of God is coming. You used to walk in these ways, the life that you once lived, but now you must rid yourselves of all such things as these: anger, rage, malice, slander, and filthy language from your lips. Do not lie to each other, since you have taken off the old self with its practices and have put on the new self, which is being renewed in the knowledge, in the image of its creator. Here, there is no Jew, no Greek, circumcised or uncircumcised, barbarian, Scythian, slave, or free, but Christ is all and is in all.
Put on then, as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, compassionate hearts, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience, bearing with one another, and if one has a complaint against another, forgiving each other. As the Lord has forgiven you, so you must also forgive. And above all these, put on love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony. And let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, to which indeed you are called in one body. And be thankful. Let the word of Christ dwell in you richly, teaching and admonishing one another in all wisdom, singing psalms and hymns and spiritual songs with thankfulness in your hearts to God. Whatever you do, in word or deed, do everything in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him.
Good. Good. So, I think this section builds on the previous, on chapter 2, where he talks about your conversion, but then he also incorporates the conversation about restraining sin and how that should actually look within our lives. And I think he grants one of the legalists' points. We need to have a way to deal with sin. Right? Paul doesn't just discount, he never discounts the problems that sin brings in our lives, right? The corruption, the greed, like whether it's upon ourselves or socially, that sin just causes problems. It hurts us, it hurts those around us, it causes a destructive life for everyone involved. And he never discounts the problems that sin causes. He's got a very high view of sin. Right, the wages of sin are death. Right? He never discounts that fact. But what he doesn't do is say, okay, you had these rules, they weren't so good, so here's a whole other set of rules. These ones will do the trick. He doesn't do that. He doesn't just exchange one set of laws for another set of laws. He says, we do need to counter the problem of sin in our lives. And here's how it's done. So what I want you to do, and we can read through the passage again. Take a minute and look through the passage and take a note of all of the instances where Paul discusses a new identity and uses language of new identity in relationship to how we should live. So Paul doesn't do, like I said, is exchange one set of rules for another. What he does is say, you are actually not the same person. You have a different identity, one not, controlled or birthed out of corrupt humanity. You have a completely different identity. So he doesn't exchange, like I said, one set of rules. He says, you've actually made an exchange. You've actually died. You're a whole different person. And because of that, sin is, the sin problem is dealt with. And you live out your new life in certain ways. So he says the exchange is you. You've been exchanged. Right? As he said earlier in chapter 1, he's taken us out of the dominion of darkness, placed us into the kingdom of the Son, in whom we have forgiveness of sins. Right? We become partakers of the saints of light. Right? We're different creatures. So that's where the battle against sin, is fought. Our new identity. We're not the same people. So again, take a minute, look through the passage, make a note of all the instances, or the ones that come to your mind, where Paul brings the idea of new identity into the conversation. Right? So we'll say, what do you notice? And then how do those ideas play into the aspect that we have a new life in Jesus? And how do they give us motivation to live that new life in Jesus? right? The new life that isn't, controlled or desirous of sin any longer, where we want to live for God instead of live for ourselves. So, read it again. This time, Ellis, can you finish it off? I'll go again 1 through 11. So take note, all of the aspects of new identity and how those reorient our lives towards living for Jesus rather than living for sin. Since you have been raised with Christ, set your hearts on the things above where Christ is seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds on things above, not on earthly things, for you died, and your life is now hidden with Christ in God. When Christ, who is your life, appears, then you also will appear with him in glory. Put to death, therefore, whatever belongs to your earthly nature: sexual immorality, impurity, lust, evil desires, and greed, which is idolatry. Because of these, the wrath of God is coming. You used to walk in these ways in the life that you once lived, but now you must rid yourselves of all such things: anger, rage, malice, slander, filthy language from your lips. Do not lie to each other, since you have taken off your old self with its practices and have put on the new self, which is being renewed in knowledge in the image of its creator. Here there is no Greek or Jew, circumcised or uncircumcised, barbarian, Scythian, slave or free, but Christ is all and is in all.
Put on then, as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, compassionate hearts, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience, bearing with one another, and if one has a complaint against another, forgiving each other. As the Lord has forgiven you, so also must you forgive. And above all these, put on love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony. Let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, to which indeed you were called in one body. And be thankful. Let the word of Christ dwell in you richly, teaching and admonishing one another in all wisdom, singing psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, with thankfulness in your hearts to God. And whatever you do, in word or deed, do everything in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father. Amen.
Good. So what phrases or terms or ideas of new identity did you notice in the passage? I'll throw one out there just to get the conversation started. Did you notice the language of taking off your old self, putting on the new self? The idea is like a change of clothes, right? Like you've taken one set off and put one entirely new set on, right? There's this transformation that's occurred. Like one's off, new one's on. And then he brings that into kind of new creation language, right? You put on the new self that's being renewed in the knowledge of the image of its creator, right? Going back to Garden of Eden language. So you've got this entirely new self, right? That's now, you now inhabit. You're totally different. So I think that idea of the new identity is really cool. One identity has been taken off, whole new identity has been given to us. What else did you guys notice?
Death. I mean, you died and your life is hidden.
Right.
When Christ, who is your new life, or is your life, right? So it's like you died and you have a new life.
Right.
So
Yeah, you died, and your new life, Christ, who is your life, appears. Yeah. So I guess the question again is, so how does that help in our path towards living for Jesus? What I guess motivation does that give?
I mean, I think it's not as like practical as when you go down to like verse 7 and 8.
Right, where it gives particular instruction.
Yeah,
Sure.
like, you used to do this.
Right.
Now you do this.
Right.
I think it's like harder to get, like you died. It's like, well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
But I think to me, when it gets to the part about it was hidden. And so it's like, it's like this, you died, your life is now hidden. Whatever your old thing was, it's hidden from you. It's hidden from you, it's hidden from everybody, because God is forgiving your sins.
Right. So I guess I kind of understand that as your new life is hidden with Christ. Right? So Christ, so the life that you have is tucked away in the identity of Jesus.
Okay, yeah, but I mean, was to get to that new life, all the other stuff is hidden.
It has to be gone away. Yeah. Sorry.
No,
For some reason, my email thing popped up. Okay. I don't know why it does that. I think the hiddenness is really, really cool. Good. What else do you notice in terms of this new identity that we inhabit?
I'll sound really dumb, because it's already mentioned.
That's okay.
Will be the first time. But basically, there's no categories anymore for people.
Yeah. You're talking about verse 11. Yeah. So in Christ we are one, regardless of our social background or whatever. He's made one new family.
Yeah.
In Christ. Yeah.
Seems like there's a solution there for a whole lot of things that are going on right now.
Sure. Well, in the ancient world, this idea was just as radical as it is in the modern world.
Sure. Oh yeah.
And I think it is one of the most powerful reasons, and it is one of the reasons why Christianity grew so wildly, is because there weren't those distinctions that were made. It's everyone has this equal access to the most important thing that's ever existed. Right? We all have access to be new creatures created to be inhabiting God's family. I think it's amazing. I think it's a very beautiful thing that really only exists within Christianity. I think it's a powerful understanding this, and there's so many other passages like it, like Galatians 3:29 and Romans 6 as well. So I think that adopting that mentality, I think, can really, really help us in our pursuit of being people of peace. That we don't make those distinctions, that everyone is equally valuable and needs a relationship with their creator. Yep. And then I love that in Revelation, where they're around the throne, and one of the songs is, you've redeemed from yourself people from every tribe, tongue, people, and nation. It's just everyone. It doesn't matter who you are. Equal access. God desires and pursues everybody equally. It's really cool. Really cool. Good. What else? What else did you guys notice about this idea of new identity?
That's how many times it has those kind of words like since then and therefore.
Yeah.
So all of these different examples is
Mhm.
you were like this, therefore be like this.
Mhm.
So it doesn't, like even the very first one, since then you've been raised with Christ, set your hearts on things above. It doesn't say set your heart on things above so that you will be raised with
Right.
Christ.
Right.
Because you're raised in Christ.
Right.
Now be like this.
Right. Because you've been changed,
You know,
now live like this, not live like this in order to be changed.
which is the difference between law and.
Yes.
grace. Like,
Yeah.
The gist of them.
That's right. Yeah. It's a totally different mindset. It's I don't act holy to be good. It's God has made me holy, so I want to be good. Yeah. Good observation, Tom.
Yeah, I was thinking verse 12, because that's the fruit of the Spirit. Put on therefore, as the elect of God, holy and beloved, vows of mercies, kindness, humbleness, of mind, meekness, long suffering, and 13, forbearing one another, forgiving one another. If any man have a quarrel against any, even as Christ forgave you, so be ye. So it shows the transformation in your life
Yeah,
And it shows the fruit of the spirits that you bear as a result of your spiritual growth.
right, right. Yeah, absolutely. And again, in that, in verse 12, he uses that language of clothe.
Mhm.
Right? So, yeah, to clothe yourselves with compassion, with compassion, kindness, right? So that is the clothing that we wear, right? That is what we present
Mhm.
to the world, right? To one another, to the world. So that is our new presentation. So instead of being people that, with the kind of vice lists that he mentioned earlier, idolatry, lust, evil desire, filthy talk, whatever it is, rather than that being what we project outwards, now we are clothed with kindness, compassion, hearts, forgiveness. Right? That is what we display, right? It's a whole different kind of person that we present to the world. Yeah, good. What else? What else concerning the idea of new identity do you notice?
Can I just say back to the point you just made? I noticed that when we were reading that even the way that you had broken it out into those two sections that two different people.
Yeah.
It's like all those, the list of stuff, immorality, sexual impurity, just all of those
Mhm.
hate, greed,
Mhm.
ugliness, and then it contrasted it to
Yes.
beauty.
Mhm.
It's like the older I get, and probably all of us, the more we realize that, Satan makes those things look good.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, that's more fun, have sex with everybody.
Right.
But the older you get, you sort of realize that's not really going to make me happy and successful. And
For
what
sure.
I really want to be happy and successful
Right.
in life
Right.
is these other things.
Right.
Like, I want the peace
Yeah.
of mind, the good, healthy relationships,
Right.
this kind of fun. So
Right.
it's like the difference between, to me, this is like an advertisement for Christianity. It's like, well, which of these do you want? Do you
Yeah.
want this
Yeah.
crap life, or do you want
Right.
these wonderful things?
Yeah. Yeah. And like in those vice lists, all those things, they just bring a destructive, harmful, like they hurt us, they hurt those around us, and they never promote us as, to be the people that we really know we want to be. Someone who's fulfilled, who's like I said, happy with themselves, who's productive and is helpful to others, who's a benefit to those around them. And it doesn't promote any of that. It doesn't help any of those things. Yeah, good. Yeah, so whether it's personal or social, those, the new self actually improves everything around us. Yeah. Good. What else? What else? Okay. How does the way Paul has reframed the discussion with new identity, how does that contrast to how, or to the issues that are going on in Colossae with this self-imposed religion, this asceticism, this harsh treatment of the body, and all those things in order to get closer to God? How does that opposition, well, we talked about the opposition, but how does this new self actually give us strength and give us the ability, right? What's better about this way of thinking than well, I just need to hold on to all these rules and obey them all so that I can go to heaven, say. How does this mindset trump the other mindset?
Well, it's a lot easier.
Is it easier?
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure, because you're not trying. It's like there's someone else working in you.
Okay, so there's more reliance. Yeah, good.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's hard to live like a legalist. I did it for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
That's condemning and hard. That means like you're not ever joyful,
Right. You're trying to do it all by yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Verse 10 says renewed. That's that word renewed. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the benefit.
And what's interesting too is that in the verse 10, it's this present tense, right? It's being renewed. Is where we all know we should be. Right? So we're all kind of in the process of being renewed. Right? So I mess up. I sin. I don't always project the new self like I should. And I realize that that's part of this process of being renewed. Right? God's regularly working on me, He's regularly working on every one of us. We are consistently being renewed to be good imitators of the image of our Creator. What else? How else is this mindset, I guess, more effective than the other mindset?
That being renewed that you just said, we're constantly being renewed, we're not constantly being saved. So that's the mindset of that legalist, law, self-righteous, I'm doing it by myself, is that, oh, I'm saved, oh, and that's bad, I'm not saved, and oh, I better get good again, I'm saved. It's
Yeah.
that razor's edge of, I'm
If saved, barely
saved or
saved.
not, like, I'm not in a process of being saved, like, I
Right.
am saved. I'm
Right.
being renewed every day, I'm being
Mm-hmm.
perfected, that's
Mhm.
sanctification.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not being saved every day, as far as
Right.
that and forth.
Right. I'm not constantly falling out of God's grace.
And that's not what renewal is.
Right. Yeah, the renewal is just a constant, just working. It's just God consistently working.
That goes with Romans 12 too.
Yeah. You want to read that?
Be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Prove what the will of God is, which is good, acceptable, and perfect.
Yeah. Do not be conformed, but be transformed. Yeah. It's good. It's good. Yeah. So, to contrast, take a minute and look at the vice lists in verses 5 and 8. So there's 2 vice lists that Paul gives. So which aspects of the new creation, knowing that we have a new creation, help to counter these individuals? So pick one of the vices that Paul brings out, and then the idea of being a new creature, right? Having a new identity, and apply that to whichever vice sticks out in your mind. So I'll read the vice lists. Put to death whatever belongs to your earthly nature: sexual immorality, impurity, lust, evil desires, and greed, which is idolatry. And then go down to verse 8. You must rid yourselves of all such things: anger, rage, malice, slander, and filthy language from your lips. So how does the idea of having a new identity transform the way you look at these particular vices? That I think if we all look at them, we can find ourselves in one or more of these categories. I know I can. I'll pick the last one, verse 8, the filthy language from your lips. I like to tell crass jokes. I have enjoyed. Sometimes I like a little bit of humor that's either dark or it could be considered crass. And I realize it's something that I'm constantly being renewed on, right? I need to change, and I work on it. And the idea of it being a new creation, right? Having a new identity, the way it kind of works sometimes when I am doing better and not being so crass, it gives me just confidence that I'm not bound to one sense of humor, and I can look at different ways of being. It's just an idea that that's not who I am anymore, and I can actually look at those things for what they are. So I think, I guess more of a concrete example. So we try to make a lot of what's holy profane, and what's profane holy, right? So we say, holy expletive, or that was fun as, so we make what's holy profane, what's profane holy. And without actually having a relationship with God, I'd never really get that. I'd never see that for what it is. And so I guess, one of the things that it helps me to do is to see through just the comedic value and into the worldview that it's actually portraying. So that's one element for me. How about any of you guys? What stands out in the vice list, and how does the idea of being a new creation, putting off the old self, putting on the new self, dying, to the world and living for Christ, how does that impact that particular vice?
Well, definitely tempers the temptation, because you're putting on Christ, you're joyfully serving. And so your desire is not to not break a rule. Your desire is to serve God.
Right, or to imitate.
And a natural outcome is that these things are put aside. And
Sure.
they're not all put aside all the time. But yeah, just, I don't know, look at wrath or malice or anger, kind of all very related to each other. Just look at the dark pit that can take you down.
Yeah.
And there's no joy in the dark pit. So you realize that, you're like, wow, that's just going to take me far away from God. So I don't want to be. I'm on this side of the fence now. I don't want to go back to that side.
Right. Right, on the wrath and anger, I remember up until I was married to Roxanne, I had road rage.
Aggressive.
I was an aggressive driver. You know, if someone cut me off, like I would tailgate that guy and honk and tell him he's number one. And I could not stand it. And I remember one time, like Roxanne, she's like, there's a person in that car. I'm like, yeah, a person that just cut me off. And she's like, no, a person that Jesus died for. I was like, oh.
Way to go, Roxanne.
Well, but like since then, like seriously, Roxanne, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much different is my driving now than when we first got married?
It's so.
It's what?
It's,
No, but be honest on the scale.
You were concerning before. I believe, you were going to flip the truck around at one point, and I'm like, Derek, I'm driving. He was good, good. He's like, that's right, we'll just have to save me then.
Yeah. No, it's a different way of looking at because you don't think of the fact that there's a person in the car until you get out. But anyway, yeah, no, it's a different way of looking.
That hasn't happened in
Years. Long time. So how do these particular areas of vice transform, knowing that we are new creations, we're new, we've put off the old self, put on the new self, we've died.
I think in verse 9 it says, don't lie to each other. And I mean, I don't know what they were getting at, but it's like, I think for me, I mean, it's being an introvert, right? And not that you don't lie, right? That's not what I'm getting at. But it's like have like more open, better relationships, right? Because you lie to yourself, you lie to others, to sort of keep maybe to keep like the road rage and shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh no, that's not me. It was the other guy. Right?
Yeah, what is it? Yeah.
And it's like, hey, how you doing? Oh, I'm doing great. Right?
Sure.
And you're not telling the truth.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, maybe it's like,
that's good.
how do you have like more open, clearer relationships where you can pray about what you're hurting for,
Right.
Where before you keep that.
Right. That's good. And don't lie to each other. That can be simple as saying, yeah, everything's fine, when it's really not. Yeah. No, very, very good. Very good. Excellent.
The malice and slander,
Mm.
when you're humble, like at least
Like me.
for me.
Sorry.
Like James.
Yeah.
He used to be humble.
But it's hard to tell someone off in your head if you really look at your own faults and the fact that you probably are mad about what you most dislike about yourself.
For sure.
So, that is, I think that's really helpful to me when I think I'm pretty fabulous.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so I'm actually, not only am I doing something that will wreck a relationship, because no matter what you do, like, you can't hide sin just in your head. Like, you can have that thought, but that thought then can't help but affect your actions later on. So, the way you treat somebody, the things you do or don't say, or the things that you offer or don't offer, even if you're trying to, like, you have a bunch of bad thoughts and you let yourself do it, and then you go try to have a normal relationship with that person afterwards, you've already destroyed something. You don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
So you can't ever just keep sin in the quiet of your own
Yeah.
mind and heart. It always comes out, and there's no way for you to not let it come out in some way.
For sure.
So I think, Aslan said it best, when you never know what might have been, no one's ever told what would have happened. And that's
Yeah, you can miss out on some pretty amazing stuff.
right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And you will never know what that is.
yeah. Yeah, good. Good, good. Yeah, anything else? Because, yeah, what I wanted to do is just get really particular with those vices and then apply Paul's kind of philosophy of new creation to those particular vices. And I think that if you go down that list, like I said, we all find ourselves in one or more of those categories.
It's gonna be the.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so I think that we can do that with most sins, or any sin really, I guess. You know, just look at how being a new creation in Jesus, having a new identity in Jesus, affects the way that we look at the world, the way that we look at temptation. Right? That actually gives us the strength and the power to be different, to live different, and to interact with people and ourselves differently. Yeah, go for it.
The greed one, which is idolatry.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's that level of thinking, I want this stuff. And then when you're more spiritual minded, you're like, thank you for this thing, God, as the giver. So there's that different perspective, which is what you just said.
Yeah,
So it's like a more spiritual mindset
Right.
for the blessings. You're seeing that it's a blessing. You're seeing who's blessing you
right.
a lot more, and that's, it's
Rather than what you don't have or whatever.
instead
Yeah,
of just focusing on the temporal
right.
situation of I want this and I want that, which is interesting. You said that's idolatry, because now that's the most important to you. But the more spiritual minded you get, you see the giver in it, and
Mhm.
just like I received gifts from somebody, and you're almost more happy that that
Mhm.
person gave you a gift, like the love and the thought, like you're just more happy about that than you really are the gift.
Sure.
We kind of be like that about our everyday, I love my new car, but I'm so happy that God would care to put me in the situation that I could be happy over a new car,
Sure.
So it's just that different spiritual.
Yeah, yeah. Good. So, was it verses 1-4? Paul begins that discussion about the new perspective for those Christ Jesus. They've, he said, their life is now hidden. They're seated, they're to set their minds on, or their hearts on the things above where Christ is seated. So then set your minds, those things, not on the earthly things. He says, because you've been raised, since you've been raised, because you've been raised, seek the things that are above where Christ is seated at the right hand of God. Right, so it's point, because you have been raised from death, it says in verse 3, you have died. Because you have been raised from death, you should not seek the way of life that you inherited from this earth, right? From the world. Don't seek that earthly life anymore, that life of death. Right? So the life that you've been raised from is a life of death. Why go back to the grave and look for meaning? You know, that's just kind of the imagery is don't seek the things of death, right? Seek the things of life, right? Where Jesus is. Seek the things above. You've died, and your life is hidden with Christ in God. I like what Jimmy Dunn says. Says they have been freed by that one act, the transformation, to live a quite different kind of life, determined not by their own fears and loyalties, but by their new and primary loyalty to Christ, and by the enabling which comes from on high, right? Their actual power comes from what he says, right? From Christ, who is seated at the right hand of God. Right now, like as Sarah was saying, you know, about the power source, about, you know, that Jesus actually works in us. We can rely and depend on him. That's now where the power comes from. It doesn't come from this earth of corruption and decay and death. It comes from Jesus, who's seated at the right hand of God. So rather than the power to live a godly life coming from our obedience to a set of rules, the power to live for Jesus comes from the throne of God, right? And I think that's very, very important, because I think we talk about these aspects of being a new creation, being a new creature. But I know at least for me, what I want is okay, so give me a list of ways to do that. Basically, give me a set of rules that I can obey. And that's just kind of how at least my mind works is, okay, so this is the new reality. So give me a list of ways I can obey it. You know, it's like that's not what he's saying. So don't look for a list of rules, right? So instead of a list of rules, what he actually gives us is a list of character traits, right? They're not rules. He says it's a new self, right? It's a new way of being, right? So he gives us a new character list. He doesn't say, here's how you do it, yada, yada, yada. But he does say that, you know, Christ is our life, set our hearts, or set our minds on the things above, not on earthly things. So he gives us a couple of ways we do that in verse 12 through, 17. So now he gives us a bunch of new character traits. This is who we should be. Not what we should do necessarily, but who we should be. So let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts. Right, from verse 15. So first and foremost, let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts. So the first kind of people we should be is people of peace. Right, like Jesus. Let the peace of Christ, let his peace rule in your hearts, which is, again, easier said than done. And I think it takes a ton of prayer, right? And it takes a ton of failing, seeing the consequences of those fail. It just takes time. But let the peace of Christ rule your hearts. And it doesn't mean let it be part of your heart. Rule, right? To reign over. Jesus' peace should be the controlling factor in how we go about our life on this earth. Let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts. Since as members of one body, you are called to peace. So, as a church, as a body, we live as people of peace, right? Rather than people of factions and conflicting desires and different motivations and everything else. We are a people of peace. We are one body of peace. And as we've said so many times about the study of Colossians, and be thankful, right? Be thankful for who you are now. You're someone who has been transformed. You have the peace of Christ dwelling in your hearts. Be thankful about it, right? The Christian life should be one of constant thankfulness. There's always something to be thankful for. Let the word of Christ dwell in you richly as you teach and admonish one another with all wisdom, as you sing psalms and hymns and spiritual songs with gratitude in your hearts to God. I want to say really quickly, he's not talking about the Sunday assembly. That's not the context of this passage. The context of this passage is a way of life. He's not saying in the assembly sing something like, yes, absolutely, that should be there too. But that's not the context of the passage. The context of the passage is who we should be. Right? People who have Christ's peace dwelling in our hearts, people who are thankful, people who are people of song, hymns, spiritual songs. Right? That should be a way of life for us. And then with gratitude in your hearts, again, the aspect of thankfulness comes up. And whatever you do, whether in word or deed, do all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks again, thanksgiving again to God the Father through him. Right? And that in the name of, that's not like by the authority of. That's not. He's talking about in his way, in the way that Jesus lives. Right? In the name of, meaning with his precepts and philosophy of life, with his background, with imitating Jesus in his name. Would you be proud to say, I'm doing this act in Jesus' name? Right? I'm flipping off the guy who cut me off in Jesus' name. Never. No one would ever do that. I hope no one ever does that. Or I'm being malice-full. Whatever. I'm being full of malice in Jesus' name. Nah. You would never do that. You are a bearer of the name of Jesus. Right? And what you do reflects on what you believe and who you believe in. Act that way. Live the way that he lived is the main aspect. So what he doesn't do is give us a whole list of commands. He gives us a list of, here's who you should be. Here's the character traits of a transformed person. Comments or questions?
Good job.
All right. Tom, could you give us a prayer?
Sure. Most gracious Holy Father in heaven, we thank you for this time together, Father, to study proportion of your word, Father, for all the things that Dirk's brought out for us, Father. God, we just pray, Father, to continue, Father, to grow in you, grow in your name, and grow in stature to our faith towards you and through the price that Christ paid for us. You loved us so much, Father, you were willing to send your Son here to live with us, Father, and to share your word, Father, with us, so that we can be a partaker of this through faith that we have through the death he died on the cross for us. Help us, God, to continue to grow, Father, and to put on the fruit of the Spirit and all the other aspects that you want us to do, Father. Because there's nothing that we could do to earn our salvation. It's through grace that we've been called, God. And Father, your Son was a propitiation for our sins. He took your wrath upon him on the cross for all of us, for everyone under the old law, from the beginning to the end. Help us, God, to always treasure these things, Father, and put them to heart. And please be with us as we lead, Father. All these things we pray. In Jesus' name, amen.
God bless you too. Have a nice week.